Okay, I'll just wait a moment. I think Howard's just slipped out. Yeah, but it's just, is he on? Is okay. Yes. Okay. Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Western Area Planning Committee of the 19th of February 2025. I am Councillor Phil Barnett, the Chairman of the Western Area Planning Committee. Tonight, I'm joined by fellow councillors, Councillor Anthony Amathraj, Vice Chairman Councillor Clive Hooker, Councillor Nigel Foote, Councillor Martin Coulson, Councillor Howard Wollaston, Councillor Paul Dick, Councillor Denise Gaines and Councillor Adrian Abbs. The following officers are here to advise and support the meeting. To my right, Deborah Inston, the planning team manager. Behind Deborah is Cheyenne Kirby, senior planning officer. And next door to Cheyenne is Paul Goddard, the team leader of Highways Development Control. To my left is Sharon Armour, legal services manager. The clerk is Sam Chilton to my left in the corner, and behind Thomas Radwan, the Zoom host. Before we start this evening's meeting, I would like to take the opportunity to remind members that we are subject to the Council's Code of Conduct, which requires us to uphold certain standards, including, importantly, respect. Members across the chamber may not always agree with one another, but I would ask that in our disagreements, we endeavour to always be respectful of other persons' views. If we hear the evacuation alarm this evening, we must leave the building immediately. Please proceed via a safe emergency exit route, which is identified above the doors of both sides of the chamber, and then exit the route and please follow any instructions given by officers to the assembly point, which is in the car park at the Dolphin Public House. If the lockdown alarm sounds, we must remain seated and await instruction from officers. We will then adjourn the meeting until such a time it is safe to proceed. Do members have any questions about the way the meeting is to be conducted before I proceed? Everybody's nodding their heads. Okay, let's move on then. We're now on to apologies. So I'm going to ask Sam. We have apologies, I think, from Councillor Tony Vickers.
Yes, Chairman, we have apologies from Councillor Tony Vickers with Councillor Martin Colston attending as a substitute.
Thank you very much and welcome to you, Councillor Colston. I know you've attended several times as a ward member, but not necessarily actually as a committee member. So pleased to have you on board tonight. Moving on, we've got 3 sets of minutes to agree, and I'm going to start on the November the 20th meeting. Any observations to that set of minutes, please, members? Right, Councillor Wollaston.
Thank you, Chairman. I may be wrong, but on page 14, 3.1, I suspect it's retention rather than detention.
On that's
yes.
Okay.
That would be yes, rather than detention. No one's going to be detained in that basin.
Okay. We will make sure that is amended accordingly, Councillor Wollaston. Okay. Can I propose Councillor Hooker, and seconder Councillor Dick. I think your hand was up first. All those in favour that was present? Okay, and obviously abstentions of members that are not present. Moving on then to the 18th of December, again for agreement, clarity. Any comments at all, members that were present that evening? Therefore, proposal, Councillor Hooker, Councillor Woolston seconding. All those in favour? Okay, and again, you weren't present. Okay. And then finally, we have the January the 22nd meeting. Again, any points to raise, members? Was that a point, Councillor Amstrad?
Not on the minutes. It says 1999, Chairman. The front page.
Sorry.
On the front page, it says 22nd January 1999. So just a correction.
Okay. You
In the minutes, on page 27, it does say Wednesday, the 22nd January 2025.
Sorry, on the agenda on the front page.
okay. I'm just going to get clarification on that point first.
It's in the agenda page, is it? That can be changed to the correct
Okay.
year.
With that correction, you're going to propose that
Happy to propose, Chairman.
and seconding Councillor Abbs. All those in favour? Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, I presume that anyway. Okay, thank you, Councillor Dick. Okay, members, then moving on to item 3, declarations of interest, and perhaps it'd be useful just to go around the table. Councillor Abbs.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I am a Green and Parish Councillor as well as the ward member for one of the applications this evening. I will actually be speaking on behalf of Green and Parish Council to that particular application, but although I was present at the meeting, I deliberately did not take part in any discussion or debate of the application, such I'm not predisposed in any way for this meeting. So I will speak, but the words will be Green and Parish's words, not mine.
Thank you, Councillor Abbs. Councillor.
Nothing to declare, Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Gaines. Councillor Dick.
Nothing to declare.
Councillor Woolston.
I'm obviously the ward member for Lambourne on item 4.2, and I have been lobbied by the applicant, and in fact by the objector. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right. Presumably, in your case, Councillor Woolston. Sorry, Councillor Colson.
I just want, so I did meet with the Jockey Club and a couple of trainers at a meeting, a visit to Lambourne in December 2023 when I was Economic Development Portfolio Holder, just to discuss the general industry.
Thank you very much. Councillor Foot.
Nothing to declare, thanks, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Hooker
Nothing to declare, Chairman.
and Councillor.
None from me,
Right.
Chairman.
And from the chair, obviously, I'm similar to Councillor Abbs, also a member of Green and Parish Council. And I think I was in a similar position when the application came forward. I did not enter any decision in regarding voting, and therefore I feel I'm quite open and clear about my intentions. It'll be based tonight, obviously, on the evidence that's in front of us. Okay, right. So we are now obviously moving on to item 4.1, and it's application 23-01045/FUL, land south of Abbotswood, Greenham. And before we actually go into the actual speakers, it will be useful probably for some of you probably not actually attended one of these meetings before, just to identify exactly what the procedure will be. Officers will present the application to the committee, after which each of the following groups might want or might wish to make representations for a maximum of 5 minutes. First, the representative from the parish or town council, depending on whether it is the town or town, objectors, supporters, applicants, and or agent and ward members. The committee members will then have the opportunity to ask questions of clarification of the speakers. Members will then have the opportunity to ask questions of officers. The committee will then debate the item before determining the application. So without further ado, I'm going to turn to Cheyenne Kirby, the case officer for the first application, and she will begin her presentation. So over to you, Cheyenne.
Thank you very much, Chairman. This application is for land south of Abbotswood, Newtown Road, Newtown, Newbury, which is 2301045 full. This application seeks planning permission for change of use of land for one Gypsy traveller pitch. This comprises of the siting of one mobile home, one touring caravan, and one day room. It also includes the erection of one stable for private equestrian use.
Chairman, can we possibly go to full screen? Can we possibly go to full screen? I small C. Yeah. It's full. Oh, almost.
So I'm not sure if that's the case, whether, do you want to zoom in on the plot? Would that be possible?
I've got more plans
Okay.
that are zoomed in. This is just the site location plan for context. The application site is a field located to the south of the settlement boundary of Newbury and is accessed from Newtown Road. The site is well screened on all sides by mature trees and hedgerow. The application site is located within the registered Grade 2 park and garden for Sandalford Priory, which is located to the east of the site. The access has a tree preservation order to the north and south. As you can see on the screen, the blue line is the application site, and then it's just more to show where the listed buildings are. They're the green on that plan. This is the proposed block plan, which shows the layout, the proposed layout of the site. Evidence has been submitted that the northern part of the site has been used for low-level B8 outdoor storage. This is from a landscape garden company and builder roofer for storage of materials, whilst the remainder of the site has been used for grazing. The application site is located in open countryside as defined by Core Strategy Policy ADPP1. However, I would like to remind members that Gypsy and traveller sites are assessed under Policy CS7 when outside settlement boundary. Paragraph 11D of the NPPF gives a tilted balance in favour of granting planning permission where there are no relevant development plan policies or the policies which are most important for determining the application are out of date. This includes situations where local planning authority cannot demonstrate a 5-year supply of deliverable housing sites. The council is not currently able to demonstrate a 5-year housing land supply, and the tilted balance of paragraph 11D is therefore engaged. The DCLG publication, Planning Policy for Traveller Sites, PPTS, that was released in December 2024, sets out the government's planning policy for traveller sites, which should be read in conjunction with the NPPF. The government's overarching aim is to ensure fair and equal treatment for travellers in a way that facilitates the traditional and nomadic way of life, travellers while respecting the interests of the settled community. Taking into account the recently approved 2 pitches in Washwater, the overall residual need in the short term up to 2026 is 1 pitch. Considering the need for 1 pitch in the short term, the outstanding requirement is 17 pitches up to 2038. The proposal for this provision of a new pitch would then meet the short-term need. It therefore makes good use of previously developed brownfield land, on land relatively well related to the existing settlement and does not conflict with national policies regarding location of new sites in the countryside. The application site is located within the registered Grade 2 Park and Garden for Sandalford Priory, which is located to the east of the site and is a Grade 1 listed building along with Sandalford Farmhouse, which is Grade 2 listed. The application site formed part of the walled kitchen garden for which some of the wall still remains, which I do have photos of for the members. This is the remaining wall, kitchen garden wall that is currently on site. The very limited visual impact will cause less than substantial harm to the registered park and the setting of the listed building. In accordance with the NPPF, this harm should be weighed against any public benefits arising from the development. As the council currently does not have a 5-year housing land supply of specific deliverable sites and therefore has a shortfall of Gypsy and Traveller pitches, the development makes a positive contribution addressing the identified shortfall, and this public benefit must be given significant weight. As the visual harm to the heritage assets are considered to be limited, the significant public benefit outweighs this less than substantial harm. In terms of vehicle movements, the submitted information suggests 4 daily vehicle movements could be generated. For the size of dwelling in this location, it may be slightly higher. However, the vehicle movements associated with the proposed use are offset against those that could have been generated by the previous use. Therefore, the level of movements is likely to be similar. The access is considered substandard with regard to visibility displays. However, due to not all the land that would be within these visibility displays being within the applicant's control or highway land, it is then balanced and difficult for the local highways authority to justify that this application would result in an intensification in vehicle movements, and an objection on these grounds could not be substantiated. Whilst this development is currently unauthorised and it was taken in a manner which is considered that this government policy on intentional and authorised development applies, these actions have clearly caused distress to local residents as evidenced by the high level of objections received. This may in turn also affect opportunities for effective community cohesion. However, aside from this, it is not considered that the retrospective nature of this application has resulted in additional planning harm. Given that the council doesn't have enough sites to meet the 5-year housing land supply, the tilted balance from the NPPF is triggered. This means the presumption in favour of sustainable development applies, unless the harm for the proposal significantly outweighs its benefits. The location of the site, the proposed pitch is located just outside the settlement boundary of Newbury. While this location is outside the boundary, the council's lack of supply for Gypsy Traveller pitches gives the proposal weight in favour of approval. The impact on heritage, there is some concern regarding that harm to the setting of the listed building in the registered gardens. However, this harm is assessed as less than significant and is outweighed by the public benefits of providing another pitch. In terms of landscape and ecological measures, the landscaping and further ecological details secured by condition provide some positive aspects but don't carry much weight in the overall decision. They do help to reduce the potential harm but don't significantly alter this balance. Overall, the lack of available sites for Gypsy and Traveller pitches, combined with the limited harm assessed, mean that the overall balance weighs in favour of the proposal. From the proposal includes a day room, which the plans have been shown on screen. This is only for one day room because it's for one pitch, and this is used for bathroom facilities, utility room, etc. The proposed gates, which are currently in situ, have been submitted with plans, and there's currently a stable block on site, and the remaining land to the south will remain as grazing land. On the screen is proposed tree planting schedule as requested by the tree officer, and photos from the site. This is the current entrance to the site, and the proposed gates. This is the entrance looking east. On the right of the screen is the preserved kitchen garden wall. And this is where the proposed day room would be located, would be along this boundary here. This is the stable building that's currently in use. And the applicant's existing mobile home, which will remain in this location. And the open paddock land. In this photo, the equine muck storage will be located in this location. However, it's currently is waiting to be built. And this is the current paddock land that will remain. And again, towards the southeast, towards the A339. And this is the southern side of the remaining kitchen garden wall. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Right, Paul Gollard. Paul, you got some observations on the A339 access?
Thank you, Chairman. As mentioned by my colleague Cheyenne Kirby, the existing access to the site is existing, but it is substandard with regards to sight lines to the south. The sight lines are obstructed by land that doesn't belong to either the local highway authority or the applicant, and there is a presence of a tree. However, as has been mentioned by Cheyenne Kirby, the use of the site previously was for a landscape gardening business. So you would have had staff arriving in the morning and then going out to sites to do their work and then coming back at the end of the day before going home. So there would have already been quite a level of activity with the landscape gardening business there. The proposal before you will at most probably have about 2 vehicle movements in and out per day. So as mentioned by Cheyenne, we are looking at similar vehicle movements to the previous use, or perhaps even less than the previous use. So notwithstanding the deficiencies of the existing access, because there is a reduction in traffic levels from the previous use, my advice to you would be is that it would be difficult to raise objection on highway grounds, because less traffic using a substandard access is actually an improvement from what could be there now. So on that basis, Chairman, we raise no objection to this proposal.
Thank you very much. We now move on to the parish representative. Councillor Abbs, could you go to the lectern, please?
Right, just a reminder, these are not my thoughts. These are the words of the parish council. So
do you need to be reminded after 4 minutes?
I really doubt I'm going to speak for 5 minutes, but we can try if you like. The debate, as I heard it at the parish council meeting, was very much aligned along the concerns that were then submitted. And they come down to a few things, really. They come down to the way it happened, which is, we're looking at a retrospective application, which does carry weight in terms of the planning system. And just to remind everybody, it was only last October that we were looking at basically a similar application in Hermitage, which we refused, not on that grounds, but on some other grounds. So it carries weight, and it is something that we can say, no, it specifically says we can reject on that grounds, and therefore the parish council were aware of that and made that point during the debate. But of course, the speed of the traffic at that particular location was also important to them. So they did have highway concerns. And as Mr. Goddard just pointed out, the visibility displays to the south are actually not ideal and could not be made correct either because of lack of ownership of the land and tree preservation orders. So there is actually a second reason that the parish thought it would be possible to say actually, no. Once we get past that, we're into, well, they didn't apply. They didn't meet the it's retrospective, but that doesn't really matter in terms of what we're considering. So they said it. I repeat it, but as far as I'm aware, it doesn't actually matter. Other than that, we're talking about footpath and how you enter and exit, not just by traffic. There is no footpath, and in fact, I think there is no intention to be a footpath down that far, even when Sandalford Park is built. And of course, you know, without saying too much more, this is doing things in an area which we are going to impact the nature of the area. So they brought that up. And that's about it, really. I mean, it wasn't a very long debate at Greenham Parish Council, but that roughly summarises what they said and debated.
Thank you. Okay, members, questions to Councillor Abs? Yes, right, Councillor.
Only a general question, Chairman. Very nice to see you here representing the parish council. Is there any reason why the parish council haven't come along themselves this evening, please?
They have. I'm here. I am a member of the parish council, so we are here.
Thank you.
Okay, I think you could be released back to your committee position. Okay, thank you. Right, well, there's no objector that decided to come and speak, so that spot will now not be taken. We've got no supporters, so I'm going to call upon Peter Brownjohn, who's the agent. Would you like to come to the lectern?
Thanks,
Would you like to be notified after 4 minutes?
That might be helpful, yes. Thank you.
Okay, right. Well, the time will start as soon as you start speaking.
I'd like to thank the chair and fellow members of the committee for allowing me to speak this evening on behalf of the applicant. As you're aware from the submissions and the presentation of the officer, this application seeks planning permission for the material change of use of land, the provision of a single Gypsy traveller pitch alongside a stables building and a day room. For the avoidance of doubt, as Miss Kirby has set out, the day room is just ancillary to the residential use as a caravan site. It's not separate in any form. So the council accept that the site represents previously developed land within the countryside, and central government's policies do encourage the effective reuse of such land. Although it's not within the settlement boundary, it is closely located to the services within Newbury. As you've heard, the site was originally part of Sandalford Priory, comprising a walled kitchen garden, and the LPA is satisfied after consultation and further discussion with my heritage colleagues that there would be less than substantial harm to this heritage asset. It's also agreed that the scheme incorporating and making a feature of the wall would add to some preservation of that wall itself. I believe, I'm not sure if the members have seen the heritage report, but there are pictures of the wall in a fairly bad state of disrepair. So the use of the site to promote effective reuse of previously developed land is meeting a clear and demonstrable need for residential accommodation of one Gypsy and traveller family. It would safeguard and preserve a heritage asset, would not give rise to any undue harm to the environment or provide poor living conditions for the occupants, and it has the added benefit of having a very demonstrable impact to the family group who have significant personal circumstances, not simply welfare considerations, but medical circumstances that are very important to be considered. And there are 2 children living on the site who are both enrolled in school and nursery. And being on the site means that they do not have to move from pillar to post leading a roadside existence. So in terms of the highways impacts, whilst the access as existing is substandard, the wording of the NPPF paragraph 116 sets out there must be an unacceptable impact on highway safety or a severe cumulative impact on the road network, taking into account all reasonable future scenarios in order to be prevented. It is clear in this case that while there are concerns, the suggested harms are not significant and unacceptable. I believe there were some comments from local residents regarding large vehicular movements, and typically these will only be during construction periods on the site where works are undertaken to improve and maintain and deliver. As recognised by the officers, the site is very well screened. It's acknowledged that the screening to the road was harmed through the widening of the access, but it has been secured with the tree officer a scheme of replacement planting for that. The design of the site has been taken into account with direct feedback from the applicant, who's wanted to keep it spacious, open, provide space for his horses, which he has a keen interest in, and goes to the fairs and trades. And it's just creating a private home for him and his family. As you've heard, it is the case within this district that there is an unmet need. At present, there is also the lack of supply that comes with that, but the accepted shortfall from within the LPA's position is very small. It is a single pitch, and this site can deliver that single pitch, as well as delivering the needs of the applicant. This is not the only consideration that comes from that, following the planning policy for traveller sites being updated in December 2024 and introducing
4 minutes.
Okay. And introducing with it the consideration of the tilted balance and the provisions of paragraph 11D of the NPPF. The site does not lie within any exception outlined in footnote 7 of the NPPF, and after the application of those policies, there exists no strong reason to refuse the development. As such, if officers were minded to refuse the development, the harms that you identify have to significantly and demonstrably outweigh the benefits. As I've alluded to, there are personal circumstances in this case. The applicant does meet the definition of gypsy traveller, and so the personal circumstances are relevant to consider. This does mean that Article 8 rights in the best interest of the children in the public sector equality duty are engaged. This is a case where the development is largely compliant with the development plan, and the proposal is not deemed unacceptable by officers. The limited harms alone are not significant and would not demonstrably outweigh the benefits of granting planning permission as required by the
Just
provisions.
coming up to 5 minutes, if you can conclude, please.
As required under the provisions of 11D of the NPPF. And these considerations do not only extend to the unmet need and lack of supply consideration, but also to the personal circumstance of the applicant and his family. I thank you for the time for hearing me tonight and request that the case officer's recommendation is upheld. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions, members? Right, Councillor Abbs to start with.
Yeah, thank you. It was Peter, yes?
Yes.
Yeah, hi, Peter. I hope you don't mind me asking a couple of questions. You mentioned previously developed. What is your understanding of the land's actual designation?
It is previously developed land,
its actual designation.
As in its policy designation?
Yeah, well, yes.
Open countryside. Countryside, it's outside of the settlement.
Okay, so it's not, previously development fits your narrative, but that's the point I'm trying to make there. And so what is the definition of a resident is relying on to say that they are a member of the community that's identifying the ability to be able to do this?
It is, as defined in the PPTS December 2024, persons of nomadic habit, whatever form of life or ethnicity.
So no, what I'm asking, is it ethnicity or is it the lifestyle? Which particular bit are they relying on?
Under the new definition, it is ethnicity.
So they have a Romanian descendants or some proof that they could offer that they are a member of that community.
If you can sort of keep a little bit, I think it would.
I'm just trying to understand which element of that legislation that they're relying on. Because
it is both. The applicant does travel for nomadic purposes, but he is also ethnically a gypsy traveller.
So would you mind kind of clearing it up in my head? Because in a lot of your presentation, you were talking about, and the pictures also showed, a dwelling that, well, it is a caravan.
Yes.
But it's not really movable. And you're talking about children being in settled states in schools and so on and so forth. That doesn't seem to go towards a nomadic lifestyle to me.
No, but the definition of nomadism is nomadic travel for economic purposes. It doesn't require you to move from one place to another constantly.
But I go to work every day. Does that means I'm a gypsy now? Or
the provision of a settled base means that the children can access education.
I think this is something that officers can pick up if you've got concerns about how they've.
Well, I'm just trying to understand what particular part of the legislation was being relied on by the applicant.
I think officers can deal with it. I think
lovely,
that'd be
thank
more
you.
appropriate in this situation.
Really? Oh, okay.
Thanks very much, Chair. Yeah, Peter, could I ask, I mean, this is a retrospective application. Could you go into some detail for the committee about why it happens to be a retrospective and that it wasn't put forward in the usual way? Thanks.
So the applicant's wife has significant medical concerns, health concerns, which rendered being on the roadside constantly an unacceptable position for them. They had to find a settled base. They had to maintain access to healthcare. Their eldest son was also of an age of starting to attend school. They needed to get him into education as well. And then the youngest son has just been enrolled in nursery as well. So it is unfortunate that he was unauthorised development, but it's simply the circumstances that surrounded it. The site was available. They purchased it. It seemed suitable. They moved on.
Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Further questions, members? Okay, I think you can return back to the
Thank you.
public gallery. Sorry.
Chairman, if I could just have a point of order stroke information on my question to Councillor Abbs. When I said, why is there not a member of the parish council available to make the presentation tonight, Councillor Abbs made it quite clear that he was reading out a statement on behalf of the parish council. My question was, if there had been an independent of the parish council, we could have asked him questions. Now, you invited us to ask him questions, but in fact, I think I'm right, and I'm sure your learned legal advisor will say, we weren't able to ask questions because he was reading a statement on behalf of the parish council, so he couldn't answer questions, and maybe you should have invited us to ask questions, but I look forward to some advice on that.
I'm sorry if you've taken that approach, Councillor Hooker, but if it had been the case that the questions were related to the statement, and if I remember rightly, going back several months ago, I think Councillor Wollaston produced spoke on behalf of another member and actually read out a statement as well. So it has been the case in the past, but I think if it had been a case that it was questions related to what was read out on behalf of the parish council, I think that would have been fair enough. But if it had been straying into an area where the member decided to actually answer it in the way that he felt was appropriate in his views, then I think it would have been out of order.
If I may, Chairman, specifically, I'd mentioned at the beginning, I listened to the observations. So you could have asked almost any question, and as long as it was something that was said there, and I'd remembered what they'd said, I would have been able to give you the answer. I thought this is pretty normal. I'm surprised.
Well, maybe I could have some clarification from.
I will ask clarification, Mrs. Armour.
So questions are obviously to clarify the statement made. So questions could have been asked to clarify the statement that Councillor Abbs made. If he couldn't answer the questions, then he would obviously say he couldn't answer the questions, but it might be the fact he was at the meeting, so did hear the discussions, he might have been able to elaborate and clarify some of the points raised.
Okay, thank you.
Now, we were expecting Councillor Marsh as the Wash Common member to speak tonight. Councillor Marsh, I don't think he's on Zoom, is he?
Councillor Marsh is not present.
He's not present. So again, we unfortunately won't be receiving a statement from the ward member, although we have another ward member, but he's in another capacity. Right, Councillor Abbs.
Yeah, simply, I've chosen not to stand up and speak as the ward member because I think that would kind of start to get too close to being predisposed. So I've specifically held back on standing up and doing that because yeah, we saved a little bit of time, but I'll be able to discuss this in debate anyway. So.
Okay, right, members, moving on. Now, for further clarification from both Cheyenne and Paul, members, questions on highways, questions on the application specifically. Right, Councillor Dick.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you to the officers for the very helpful and well-written reports and indeed presentation. My question is about highways.
There were 3 negatives in the last statement from the highways officer. There's normally 2. I've got a simple question. Is that entrance exit safe? Full stop.
Chairman, if it was new, if it was a new access, it would just be refused outright because it's not up to standard. Therefore, we wouldn't consider it safe. But as the access is existing and the previous use probably had the same or more traffic than what's proposed before you, it is difficult to object because the access is existing and it's already there. It's not ideal, if I could say so, and if the access was new, no, it would be totally unacceptable. But what I'm asking you to do tonight is to take account of what is already there in your deliberations and the fact that it's existing.
Do you want to come back, Councillor?
Well, I think I should because they ignored the question. It's a yes or no question, but let's try a different angle. Have there been any notable, serious, worrying incidents with people using that exit in the normal way?
I will have a look. Can I come back to that question shortly?
I'm in the hands of the chairman. Thank you.
Councillor Foot, I think you were. No, oh, sorry, I thought you had your hand up. Sorry, apologies. All right, Councillor Williston.
Thank you. Can I have some clarification on just exactly where we are with Gypsy and Traveller accommodation? Because with the previous application in Hermitage as well, it doesn't seem straightforward to me. Why we've got 17 sites being put up at Four Houses Corner, but only 1 is being accounted for. And I think remember being told last time round that we are looking for 1 site only for, I think, 5 years. Is that right?
Thank you, Councillor. So the calculations has now changed since December because of the new release of the Gypsy Traveller requirements. So even though there's 17 pitches at Four Houses Corner, there's only an additional 1 that we can count because there was previously 17 and now there's 18. So that only counts as 1 additional pitch. There's no change there's no definition between short term and long term now. It's just 1 period. But until the new policy is adopted, we can use a short term. So we're 1 pitch short. At this current point, it was reassessed by planning policy, and then as it stands at the moment, we are 1 pitch short in the short term. However, in the long term, we will need to gain another 18 pitches.
Sorry, just for clarification, can I come back to this time next year? Will we be short again?
It's up to 2038, so we have to provide so many pitches within that time frame.
Right.
So
we've got 13 years to find the other
18.
18. Okay.
Well, it's not quite because it's 2025 to 2038.
That makes me 13 years to me.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I thought you said 30 years.
No. Thank you.
Okay. Right, Councillor Amatharaj and Councillor Hooker.
Thank you, Chairman. I just have one question to the case officer, Sharon. Showed us pictures of this kitchen garden wall. I'm not able to understand what's the significance or what the relevance for the kitchen garden wall to this application. It says in paragraph 5.69 that wall will be retained, and subsequently it also adds that paragraph to say it will be an opportunity to enhance the application site. So can you explain to us what is the context of that kitchen garden wall adding value or enhancing this one, and is it something which we have to consider in this application?
Thank you, Councillor. So the kitchen garden wall formed part of the wider Sandalford Park estate for the kitchen garden that was located on this site. The garden wall has been part of this application site for a long time, and in more recent years has become overgrown and quite hidden under all the undergrowth. And then as part of this application, as stated in the heritage reports, the clearing and the pulling back of all the plants growing up it has helped to preserve it. because it's now been exposed rather than hidden and forgotten about. I hope that clarifies the matter.
Councillor Hooker.
Thank you, Chairman. Just for the clarification from Ms Kirby on this retrospective application, can you explain to me why the biodiversity net gain requirement is not required because of the date, and yet the nutrient neutrality element is?
Thank you, councillor. In terms of, so biodiversity net gain has come in as last year, and nutrient neutrality came in 2021. So that's why applications have been caught. So this application was submitted prior to biodiversity net gain. Therefore, it's not applicable in this case.
Thanks, Ralph.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chairman. Obviously, Mr. Goddard, I'm very. You will remember the Hermitage application, and in fact, once we discussed displays and access and so on. Yes, more vehicles, but basically, that's a pretty dangerous road that we're talking about. If it had been from the north display, I'd be less concerned. But this is from the south, where people are accelerating up the hill. Yeah, now you've stated that in the normal circumstances, we would never approve this because of the existing. But you also said that you think the traffic will be about similar. Were there any traffic surveys done when the business was in operation? Because obviously the business no longer exists, so they've clearly failed. So for me, that might suggest, in fact, there'd be no traffic into the old facility. So I'm really trying to get my head around this comparison between the old and the new and how justified that really is, considering we absolutely know it's a dangerous road.
Chairman, thank you. I will now answer Councillor Dick's question as well. I'll answer your question. We've made a number of assumptions about the previous business, and I mentioned them earlier on. Landscape gardening business, you would have staff, and there would be a number of staff, certainly more than one, that would come to the site. They would come and collect whatever equipment and tools and vehicles they needed before going out to do a job. They would then come back at the end of the day and bring it all back and then leave the site using their cars. So let's assume there were 2 staff employed, at the very least. That altogether could be some 6 vehicle movements altogether. The proposal before you is for 1 residential unit. We think it would be something between, a family would be something between 4 and 6 vehicle movements. Obviously, if more staff were employed, then the traffic movements for the existing use, which could come back tomorrow, because it has that authorised use on the site, would be even higher than the figure that I just quoted. Councillor Dick. Yeah, I don't think the access is safe. But what I would say, if you reduce the number of vehicle movements, the access will be safer than what it was because of the reduction in vehicle movements. While you've been discussing the planning application, I have visited the webpage Crash Map, which is available for anyone to look at. And since the 1st of January 2019, there has been, along that whole section of road, from the traffic signal junction with Highwood Copse Road and the roundabout by the Swan Pub, there has been 1 personal injury accident near St Gabriel's School. 2 vehicles were involved with 2 people sustaining slight injuries. Now, what I would say is that every personal injury accident is regrettable, but considering the volume of traffic that uses that road, 1 personal injury accident with slight injuries is not untypical. It's probably better than average, if I may use that expression. So the answer to your question is no, there have been no serious incidents along there in the last 5 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm content with that. Thank you.
Councillor Coulson.
Yeah, can I just have a question of clarification? So because this entrance is already existing, does that mean the fact that it is unsafe is grounds for us to reject, if we were so minded, this application, or do we have to disregard it because it's the same as it was or better than it was before?
I would argue that you should disregard it because it's existing. The business could start up again. It has use on there. And Councillor Dick, I think, asked a good question. Is the access safe? Well, not really, because it's substandard. But if you're reducing the number of traffic and vehicles using it, including the landscape gardening business may have had trailers with lawnmowers on the end of it, etc. If you're reducing the number of vehicles, you're making an unsafe access that bit more safer, in my view. So it is an improvement. Thank you.
Thanks, Rabs.
Yeah, I'm sorry to come back to you again, Mr. Gull. I will ask someone else a question as well. We seem to be ignoring the fact that there is an equestrian element to this, and the person that the agent that represented the client spoke about, their association with the Gypsy traveller community, and therefore they travel. So your estimates, when you're saying you're thinking it's going to be less, I'm just in my head I can see the same amount, if not more, because it depends on the type of equestrian activity that's going on, doesn't it?
You could also argue that if the future tenant is not on the site for periods of time, periods of days or weeks or whenever, then the figures that I've given you, sort of 4 to 6 vehicle movements a day, could even be less.
But we could argue that
if they're not there every day.
But could we not also have argued that for any kind of business that's related out there that's seasonal in its nature? Most gardening doesn't happen in the winter months, and therefore the traffic in and out of there would have been quite small in the winter months. So I'm just trying to get the equivalents in my head. I'm not trying to score points or anything. I'm just trying to get the equivalents.
I think what I've sought to do here is to provide a worst case scenario. Yes, the gardening business won't be that active in the winter, perhaps, but during the summer, yeah, it would be quite busy. And I've also assumed a worst case scenario for the existing residents when they're there.
Yeah, okay. One other question, if I may, Chairman, and it's coming back to this definition that's being realised across. So I guess it might be Deborah or Cheyenne.
Discussing something.
Yeah, sure. So what is the actual definition, the evidence provided that allows this application to have the weight that the officers have put behind it?
Okay, so the definition is for persons of nomadic habit life or whatever their race or origin, including such persons who on grounds only of their own or their family or dependents' educational or health needs or old age have ceased to travel temporarily or permanently, and all other persons with a cultural tradition of nomadism or of living in a caravan, but excluding members of an organised group of travelling show people or circus people travelling together as such. This is then, once this is submitted, this is given to our planning policy officers to assess on whether the applicants meet the definition of Gypsy traveller. And in this case, our policy officer has fully assessed the circumstances submitted and has deemed the applicants to meet under this
So I'm just
criteria.
speaking, they provided actual evidence of connection in the way that's defined within the policy.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
No further questions? Well, from the chair, I've got a question for you, Paul. Obviously, Councillor Abbs was just talking about the movement of equine, and I think it's something which I'd already asked outside this meeting about the turning into the site, going south, turning right, and obviously turning right coming out the site. Are you happy with a vehicle which is possibly towing a trailer, turning across the stream of traffic, which of course is 50 miles an hour?
No, Chairman, but my advice to you is that sort of event or type of vehicle movement would already be taking place with the existing use. The proposal for you, before you tonight, my advice is it's not making it any worse than what's already there. In fact, I would even argue it's probably making it better. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Right, members, who's going to open the debate? Councillor Gaines, I think. Yes.
Thank you, Chairman. I've got a couple of points really. 5.40 mentions authorities should very strictly limit new traveller site development in open countryside that is away from existing settlements. And one of the things that we've actually overseen tonight is that this settlement doesn't conform to that. They actually did. They are not in. They are in open countryside. They're not next door to a settlement. So that's one thing. And then 5.86. Get down to it. When Mr. Brownjohn was asked about the retrospective planning, he mentioned lots of things about their own personal circumstances. What he failed to say was exactly why it was retrospective, because I believe that actually he should have been able to tell us why that the applicant didn't ask for planning permission before he put that site in place. And 5.86, when I get down to it, sorry, I'm used to having a paper copy and I haven't got one this evening. Says, while the fact is an application is retrospective, is not normally material planning consideration, the Secretary of State in 2015 set out a written statement indicating why intentionally unauthorised development should become a material planning consideration in determining planning applications for unauthorised gypsy and traveller developments in order to create a level playing field and not to undermine the public confidence in planning system. I think my concern is that is this going to set a precedent? I know we don't like using the word precedent in planning, but is this going to set a precedent? We're actually looking at a site that's retrospective, and could we be doing the same thing in the future? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Right, going on around the table. Right, Councillor Abbs.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I'm really struggling with the safety aspect of that road. Most of the members of the committee don't go down there regularly. I do, because Greenham's my home base, if you like. And the speed of traffic at the best. I don't know when the last traffic survey was done on it, but people sticking to 50 miles an hour is at that particular point anyway is infrequent, I would say, not frequent. But you know, traffic survey. So I'm really struggling with that, and especially given that they have the ability, it appears, just to come out and turn right and go across the road. And I can't think how much money this council spent on a recycling centre and splays that carefully ease traffic off the road, and yet more money on Highwood cops easing people off the road around the we go out of our way to make sure traffic can't turn right across that road, because we all know how dangerous it is. So I'm really struggling, and that's nothing to do with the community. It's just whoever lives there, if anybody is allowed to live there. And if they attempt to do that, you know, so I would certainly be looking to, if we are minded to approve this, to at least try and put some conditions in to make them turn left, and ensure they turn left out of that entrance. Otherwise, it won't be if, it will be when, and it will be a heavy accident near St Gabriel's. Near another development which does have the correct splays just across the road, which is also an existing entrance that was converted into houses. And you know, you talked about precedent, Councillor, and I agree with you. It was only in October that we rejected a traveller community, and because of things like displays and because of the lack of line of sight and the danger on the traffic. So surely we have to be consistent. You know, it's not trying to be mean or anything. It's just, this is consistency. And so I'm going to have a think about where my decision will finally be, because I am a little bit undecided still, but I'd really like to kind of hear some reasons as to how we might be able to say no and figure out, is there a different way of this application coming forward where safety is paramount, not secondary?
I'm going to continue around the table at the moment, Councillor Abbs, before we start getting to that point. Right, Councillor Dick, then Councillor Foot, and then Councillor Wollaston.
Thank you, Chairman. As an aside, what we discussed in November is not relevant at all to me. It's a completely different application. Our role is not to wander, it's to focus on what's put in front of us. Personally, I read a document that's very well argued. I read a document which addresses legislation and where there are balances, and that's in the end what planning is often about. The officers are telling us that in balance this should be approved, and we've heard from Highways that we're improving the situation. It's not ideal. We're improving the situation. I've read carefully the objections and noted the comments from the statutory consultees, and although we're still talking, it's very clear that I would wish to support the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
At this stage, are you moving towards a proposal, or you're going to wait for other members' comments first?
I'm in your hands. Very happy to make that proposal.
Well, I've got 2 or 3 other speakers on the list, and I'm going to take them first. I'll come back to you, Councillor Dick. Right, Councillor Foot.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair. I think my first comment really is that it is regrettable that this is a retrospective application. I think it would have been much better to put it forward. However, we've heard some quite compelling arguments about why the circumstances are that led the applicant to actually put the development in. But regarding the safety aspect of the entrance and exit, I noted that this application is appropriate for a sill payment, and I wonder whether we could make it a condition that we put a warning sign on the northbound carriageway, that's to say going from the Swan roundabout up the hill, to say something like, you know, a cautionary sign saying hidden access or something along those lines. And also to have a road sign facing on the other side of the carriageway, the exit from this site, saying no right turn, you know, that it takes people up to the major roundabout up at Monk's Lane, through the traffic lights, all of that, to then get on the southbound carriageway down towards the Swan pub. So I can't see that that's an insurmountable problem. And I think I'd be inclined to agree with Councillor Dick that I don't really see there are reasonable grounds to refuse this. I would be happy to second Councillor Dick's proposal to accept this if he so chooses. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Right. Sorry. All right, carrying on. Were you wishing to speak? Yes, Councillor Wollaston.
Sorry, notwithstanding Councillor Dick's comment that we shouldn't be considering the Hermitage site, there is, for me, a clear differentiator, because the reason we dismissed that one, and I know it's going to appeal, was largely because of overlooking and affecting the nearby residents, and that's not the case here. So the only single reason I can see for not agreeing to this application is the access, and with the number of vehicles coming in and out, I just don't really see that's a major problem. So I'm minded to approve.
Okay. Any further comments? Right, Councillor Wollaston. Sorry, Councillor Kingston. Sorry.
Well, like others have said, I think it is unfortunate that it's retrospective, but we've covered that one already. I think we have got a clear duty to provide a pitch for Gypsy travellers. And we have got the tilted balance, and we've also heard about the safety being probably better than it was before. So I'm also minded to approve at this point. Thank you.
Okay, I think I'm looking towards councillor Dick to come up with a proposal.
Well, thank you, Chairman. I propose that we accept the officer's recommendation as writ on our papers.
And councillor Foot is used.
Happy to second that. Chair, thanks.
Okay, right, so what do we need to include the proposal before I put it to the vote?
I think the proposal was to accept the officer recommendation as set out in the report with the conditions as set out in the report.
Anything?
Sorry. It was. I mean, someone made a point about other conditions you can put on the entrance and exit, but there was no comment from the officer, so I assume the answer to that is no. Pause there.
Paul might be able to answer that, but it's outside of the red sight line and it would be difficult. We wouldn't be able to control.
The yes or no question?
No.
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 As I said,
Unfortunately, no.
with as writ, which includes the conditions that we've already seen. Sorry if that wasn't clear.
So therefore, can I put that proposal to the vote, members? All those in favour? Against? Okay, and abstentions from the chair. For the Zoom attendees, that was carried. The application is approved. Okay. Right, for members of the public for that application, if you so wish to leave, feel free to do so, because I'm going to obviously move on to the second application. I'm going to... We all ready to commence? Okay, right. So we are now moving on to item 4, brackets 2, application number 23/02941 dash reserve mat RES MAJ 23/02942 RES MAJ 23/0294444 RES MAJ 23/02945 RES MAJ, which is land adjacent to White House Farm, Lambourne. Now, before we go into the proceedings, I've from the chair, gonna ask you as members, if you so wish, to suspend standing orders to allow speakers 10 minutes, because of course we are talking about reserve matters on 4 applications, which some individuals might even consider it's a 5-minute apiece. I think that's totally unnecessary, but I think 10 minutes will be accepted. So does that find favour? Okay, okay. Secondly, oh, sorry.
Oh, no, I don't think we need to.
Okay. Okay, all right. So all those in favour? Okay, and your guess. Okay, you abstain. Yeah.
No, I just don't think we need it. So.
Okay, all right. Okay. Okay, and further to that request, believe it or not, we've yet again in a position where if you look at the speakers, you'll find that the parish council has not requested to speak by a given time of 1600 hours yesterday afternoon. They've specifically asked officers if there's a possibility that we as members will allow a representative from Lambourne Parish Council to speak. Now, I'm asking you as members, if that's what your wish is, you obviously can decide to accept that, or if you feel that we've gone down that route so many times in the past that you wish they are not going to give given the opportunity to speak, please notify me now and we will take the vote. Councillor Gaines.
Could I just ask Councillor Wollaston how often Lambourne Parish Council meet?
Once a month.
So it could be that they're actually out of time because of the sort of co-location of their agendas, to be fair.
Well, obviously that could be one issue. You were obviously not present last week at the site visit, but we didn't have a representative from the parish council at the site meeting either. So members, can I have a proposal one way or the other on this particular request, please?
Well, Chairman, I propose that we stick to our normal rules, please, and get on with this.
Carried. Okay. Thank you very much.
Chairman, can I make one point? The reason that the representative wasn't there was because she was a dental appointment. It's just unfortunate timing.
The representative that would have come.
Yeah.
Sorry, they were aware of the site visit.
They were.
Yeah.
Chairman, can I make a point? I really think we should get on with this application. These people are sitting here. It's not fair, but perhaps we could write to parish councils tomorrow and remind them of these deadlines, because they're the people who consistently fail to observe this rule. And we do want to hear what they have to say.
Yeah, it's their opportunity. Okay. Continuing on then, so we will move on to the invitation of the officer to present the case for this particular application. And I think you're probably going to, Cheyenne, mention all three reserved matters for all the applications. Is that? Sorry, all four, but you are going to you're going to identify each particular one, but you're going to do it in one presentation, aren't you? Over to you.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I'm going to try and make this as clear and concise as possible so you can separate out each individual application. This item is for consideration is for 4 interrelated reserve matters applications that seek approval of appearance and layout of previously approved outline planning permission 1903-161, which was for 2 racehorse training yards. And under that application, the matters to be considered were access, landscaping and scale. These applications have been brought to committee due to over 10 letters of objection being received, and the recommendation is for approval subject to a Section 106 agreement. The application site is located outside the settlement boundary of Lambourne within the North Wessex Downs National Landscape, which was previously known as the AONB, and is within the River Lambourne Special Area of Conservation Nutrient Neutrality Zone. The outline application states that the larger site will provide a new prestigious racing yard with the aim of attracting elite trainers to invest in Lambourne's racing cluster. It is proposed that the smaller site will provide a new smaller yard operation to complement the existing facilities within the area. This application covers 4 separate applications, of which are reserved matters, and it's, again, I will reiterate, it's for appearance and layout to be considered only. The first application will be for the smaller site known as Phase B, the rural workers units only. The second application will be for the larger site, Phase A, rural worker units only. Application 3 is the larger site, Phase A, equestrian works only. And then application 4 is the smaller site, Phase B, equestrian works only. Again, I'd like to make it clear to members that the principle, the access, the landscaping and the scale have already been approved, and that members are only assessing the appearance and layout. Other matters such as drainage are to be dealt with by condition at a later stage. On the screen now is the indicative plan that was submitted at outline that was approved. There have been some minor changes which I will address later on, but this was the indicative plan approved. The first application is for the residential elements of the smaller site, Phase B. This includes the construction of 2 semi-detached, 3-bedroom staff dwellings. Each dwelling has 3 parking spaces located to the front, as well as having its own private amenity space. The proposed dwellings are of traditional design, with the first floor rooms located within the roof space to reduce the overall scale. The appearance is of a more modern style dwelling with traditional features such as windows set within the first floor roof slope, and the use of materials such as timber cladding and tile take influence from the surrounding area, as well as providing contrast to the existing dwellings located in the local area. The second reserve matters application is for the residential elements of the larger site, Phase A. This includes the construction of 2 semi-detached staff dwellings, one of which will be a 3-bedroom and the other a 4-bedroom, each with a detached garage and private amenity space. There is also proposed a detached 4-bedroom trainer's dwelling with detached garage and private amenity space. Each dwelling has parking spaces located to the front, as well as having a garage. The dwellings are of a traditional 2-storey design and the appearance of a more modern style dwelling of simple design. The use of materials for the dwellings are red brick, timber cladding and roof tile to take influence from surrounding areas. On the screen now is the proposed staff accommodation. And then on the screen now is the proposed detached trainer's dwelling. And on the screen is the proposed garage for the trainer's dwelling, which is a double garage compared to a single garage, which is proposed for the staff accommodation. The third application is for the approval of the larger site equestrian facilities, and is a total of 60 boxes made up of 3 18-box American barns, 1 6-box isolation stable block, covered horse walkers, lunge ring, hay and straw and implements building, a loading ramp, muck storage, staff car park, cycle store, horse walk, central services building and office building. On the screen now is the proposed office building. And then we have the implements/feed barn, the central services building, the muck storage elevations, exerciser elevations, loading ramp elevations, lunge ring, horse walk. So there have been some minor changes to the scheme. However, the proposed buildings are of a standard design for equestrian racehorse facilities, and the scale was deemed acceptable under the previous application. But since the outline, there have been some minor changes, such as parking to relocate 2 parking spaces from the service yard to the staff parking area, and to reduce the extent of hard surfacing required to the northwest of the site. The hard standing around the isolation boxes to remove vehicle connection, and to the horse walk to provide turning space for vehicles. And because of these changes, there's been slight alterations to the landscaping scheme. The next application is for the final one is for the equestrian elements of the smaller site known as Phase B. This includes construction of 40 boxes made up of 2 18-box American barns, 1 4-box stable block, covered horse walker, hay, straw and implements building, loading ramp, muck storage, staff car park, cycle store, horse walk and office building. On the screen now is the proposed office elevations, the implements, just feed barn elevations, the muck storage elevations, exerciser elevations, loading ramp, and horsewalk section. The proposed buildings are, again, of a standard equine racehorse facility design, and again was deemed acceptable for the scale under the previous application. In terms of the fourth, so the smaller site, equestrian changes. So there's a reduction in footprint of the hay bedding implements barn by 1 bay, removal of the secondary yard access adjacent to the loading ramp to reduce the hard standing, reduction in isolation yard as a result of maximum area threshold being exceeded, and the moving of the muck storage due to environmental health concerns. For both the larger and the smaller yard, the proposed materials are all materials stipulated in the design code, which was agreed at outline stage. Overall, it has been determined that the appearance and layout of each of the applications has been found acceptable and therefore recommended approval subject to a section 106 to secure appropriate nutrient neutrality mitigation. On the screen now are the site photos, and this is the view east towards the access point. Again, the access has previously been approved under the outline application. This is the view north towards Rodown Farm Barns. This will be the location of the larger site, Phase A. Again, this is the view north towards Rodown Farm Barns. And this is the view southeast towards Ivanhoe Cottage. Again, this is looking towards where the smaller site, Phase B, is proposed. There'll be previously approved has a separate access for the smaller yard. This is the view south, the view northwest, southeast, east. And then the agent has currently provided some CGI imagery of the proposed site. So this is the larger site with the 3 American barns, the staff housing, the trainer's house, etc. And this is indicative imagery of the smaller site. There are a couple of small changes on this plan, on the CGI one. The muck storage on the left-hand side has been moved next to the implements barn, which I can show you a amended plan of that. But just to make that clear, that this is only indicative. This plan, this is just for due to member request. Would be the implements / bedding barn and the 6 stable block, and an indicative photo of the 3 American barns located on the larger site. And that's all. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Cheyenne. Right, Paul.
Thank you, Chairman. As mentioned by Cheyenne Kirby, much of the issues regarding these sites were considered at outline stage, including access to the site and the expected traffic generation from the proposal before you. All of this was found to be acceptable. The planning applications before you tonight are only looking at layout and appearance. And with regards to those items, we have no objections, Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, I now call upon, I think it's Peter Francis, isn't it? I think you're speaking. No, I think you took note of the 10-minute. I suspect you've probably prepared a speech for 5 minutes, but would you like us to notify you after 8 minutes, or do you feel that you're not going to get to that point?
I think 8 minutes would be good.
Okay. Over to you.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening. I'm Peter Francis from Upper Lambourne. And firstly, I say a big supporter of the horse racing community. This evening, I'm representing the 24 objectors from Upper Lambourne residents that will be impacted by this development. Our concerns fall into two main areas. Firstly, the flood risk and drainage issues from the new development. And secondly, the inadequacy of the existing Thames Water sewer system to accept the new wastewater from the new development. There are a number of other issues that have been raised, such as road safety, from construction traffic, environmental impact to wildlife, human, dogs, and horses. But in the 5-minute timeframe, now extended to 8, let me address two main issues and then one issue of road safety, if I may. Firstly, the flooding risk and drainage issues. The Upper Lambourne Valley has experienced flooding on numerous occasions in 2007, 13, and 14. The sheer size of the proposed development and its southerly elevation and impermeable hard standing in the yards has the potential to exacerbate the flooding risk in relation to houses and yards and surrounding area situated opposite the development. Indeed, with the River Lambourne just 100 metres directly below the proposed site, it has the potential to affect those further downstream in Lambourne, Eastbury, and East Garston. This was recognised in a June 24 email from Paul Backus, the Principal Engineer, Drainage and Flood, to Maisie Mazilwa, Commercial Planning Officer, concerning the runoff in the infiltration basin at the top of the hill that could have ramifications to the site or area downstream of the basin. This issue is effectively this is the effectiveness of using infiltration drainage on a sloping site, such as the proposed development. Paul's recommendation was not to approve the planning application until further supporting evidence from an appropriately qualified geotechnical engineer or engineering geologist was obtained. Given the flood risks to houses and yards opposite the site and surrounding area, we fully support this further study being completed before any approval is granted. We also have some additional concerns from the 2 yards in Upper Lambourne, which have already received planning permission, but are yet to be developed. These 2 sites, once developed, may add to the potential risk of flooding. Secondly, moving on to the sewage and infrastructure capacity concerns, at the May 2023 meeting of the East Garston Flood and Pollution Forum, attended by Thames Water, EPA, West Berkshire, East Garston Parish Council, and MP Laura Farris, it was concluded that the Upper Lambourne Valley has increasingly suffered from 2 related problems with its sewerage network: the discharge of foul water into the River Lambourne, and in extreme cases, sewage flowing into the homes and streets, of which sadly, some of our Upper Lambourne residents have experienced. Indeed, in January last year, my family witnessed this firsthand with sewage overflowing into the River Lambourne along the Fork Welwyn Way, which lasted for approximately 2 months. Repercussions of this include pollution into the river and documented death of amphibious wildlife, including frogs and newts. We therefore find the statement by Thames Water to Ardent that there is sufficient capacity in their system to accommodate the foul water discharge from the new development lacks credibility. Thames Water, as reported, are currently under investigation by Ofwat for failing to meet their infrastructure obligations, and as reported in the Financial Times last week, acknowledged that half their sewage plants lack the pipes and tanks to process wastewater, leading to untreated effluents to spill into rivers and waterways across the country. We believe that given Thames Water documented history of system failures, sewage overflows, and lack of investment, it is not in the public interest to rely solely on their assurances. We have also evidence by Thames Water operatives stating that there is not capacity in the current system for any extra development in the immediate area. We therefore request that an independent drainage and wastewater capacity assessment be conducted before any approval is granted. I would also note that these issues have been raised in a public forum with the Jockey Club back in March last year, and while they noted our concerns and undertook to address, so far we have no feedback has been provided. We therefore request the application be deferred until an independent flood risk and drainage impact assessment is conducted. And we also request the council seek assurances from Thames Water that the sewerage infrastructure can accommodate this development without adverse impacts. As a final point, at the moment, there are 2 greenfield sites that have been approved for development in Upper Lambourne and 3 horse yards up for sale. We therefore consider there is more than enough capacity to support the Jockey Club while this project is paused to allow for proper impact assessment on residents and wildlife. If I may, I'd just like to make a few comments on road safety. 2 of the trainers, which are directly opposite the development, Stanley Moore and Mark Usher, are concerned particularly about road safety issues. I would like to just read part of an extract from Stan Moore's letter of objection. Quote, regarding our own property, I have major concerns about the safety of my own staff and horses, both in the timescale of the construction of the buildings, which I foresee could go on for many years. The entrance to our property, which is shared with Rowdown House and Rowdown Stables, is directly opposite the entrance to the proposed development site. We have safety mirrors put up as it is already a hazardous operation exiting our property due to the high volume of road traffic and speeding vehicles. We have approached the council for traffic calming methods, but nothing has been implemented. The sheer volume of additional construction site traffic on an already very busy B road is of great concern to me, and being directly opposite our yard, I'm deeply concerned as to how a safe traffic management plan could be implemented on the proposed site. I think there are also 2 other issues. One is the lack of a complete pavement from Upper Lambourne to Lambourne Village. And this is an issue for safety for staff walking into and back between the 2 villages. And secondly, the speed limit, currently 40 miles an hour. There have been many requests for this to be reduced to 30 miles an hour. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much.
Chairman.
Well within the time. Members, questions to Peter Francis? No? Looks as if you got off lately.
Thank you very much.
Okay. We've now got a supporter, Tom Fillery. And again, you have 10, you have 10, but presumably you're not likely to be quite that.
No, I won't
taking
need 10,
that amount of time up. Okay, right.
Good evening all. My name's Tom Fillery. I'm the Director of Yard and Stable Hygiene Services and have worked in the racing industry for around 20 years, working in studs, pre-training yards, before launching my own company, which currently is at the forefront of equine biosecurity within the industry. Over the past 10 years, with biosecurity as the constant brief, we've been involved in creating the most up-to-date yards in the country, which are user-friendly and come with the best possible biosecurity. Knowledge gleaned from the country's most respected and successful trainers have enabled us to use their experience in arriving at the best possible solutions for the day-to-day working environment for both horses and staff. There are many ways of keeping horses, and these differ from yard to yard, but more recently there has been a significant change in how racehorses should be housed. This move has been away from courtyards or rows of external stables to self-contained American barns, which are a better environment for horses and for staff. Additionally, ventilation, labour efficiency, and security of the premises is more easily achieved with these American barns. These barns are proven to improve staff productivity and also horse welfare. More recently, we've been involved in the creation and renovation of some of the biggest yards in Upper Lambourne as a company. Such renovations were necessary to allow trainers to be able to compete in what is a very, very competitive industry. Where we've worked in modern yards, we have had the opportunity to create facilities which benefit from improved ventilation, improved biosecurity, improve functionality, which are easy to maintain. This is all for the benefit of the horses and workers at these yards. By considering all the criteria presented, the proposed design of the 2 new yards in Upper Lambourne will lead to future success. Orientation of the barn is perfect, taking into account the prevailing wind and topography. Proximity of the muck heaps to barns will aid staff efficiency, but not too close to interfere with the health of the barn. Horse walkers and exercise machines within reasonable distance from the barn. It all looks good to me. Given my experience, I believe the proposals will help to improve the quality of yards in Upper Lambourne and will therefore benefit the wider racing community. I urge the committee to support the application this evening.
Thank you very much. Right, questions, members at all? No? No? Seems again you've got off reasonably lightly. Okay. I'm now going to call upon the applicant, Will Riggy. Is that right? Will Riggy, and also Megan Bonner. Is that right? Yes, Megan. I think we met last week, didn't we? Anyway. So you've got 10 minutes between yourselves. So I don't know how you're going to split the time, but.
We switched on. Good evening, Chair, Committee and officers. My name is Will Rigall and I am Head of Operations for Jockey Club Estates, who operate over 600 acres of public training grounds in Upper Lambourne. JCE is the property and land arm of the Jockey Club, who are the largest commercial body in British horse racing. Governed by Royal Charter, we are a not-for-profit organisation and reinvest all of our proceeds back into racing for the long-term health and sustainability of the sport. I would like to start our presentation by giving a quick lowdown on the history of the outline application for which these reserve matters refer to. The sites being considered tonight are of real strategic importance to the racing industry and the village of Lambourne. As the administrator of racing in Lambourne, we have seen firsthand the increasing conflict between highway users and equines in recent years. Whilst Lambourne is still steeped in its racing heritage and culture and is very proud of it, the population, rather like modern day society, is not as in tune with working animals as it once was and is less sympathetic to its needs. On top of this, the requirement for Lambourne to build 90 homes on sites such as Lynch Wood will make life very difficult for yards trapped the wrong side of that development to gain access to the gallops. This, together with staffing and time pressures, means the need for quick turnaround of exercise lots becomes even more important. And these 2 strategic sites in Upper Lambourne are ideally located and desperately needed to future-proof this unique and rural industry, which is so important to West Berkshire. I would now like to hand over to Megan Bonner, who will run through the more details of the reserved application.
Good evening, councillors. As we've heard, my name is Megan Bonner and I am the Director of KWA Architects. I specialise in planning and I'm the agent for the proposed developments. At KWA, we have 30 years experience of specialising in designing and securing planning permission for prestigious equestrian developments, which prioritise welfare and safety. The current reserved matters application relates solely to appearance and layout. These matters are the only matters that can be considered, and issues such as flood risk, sewage and traffic cannot form part of the decision-making process. For avoidance of doubt, full drainage and surface water conditions are already attached to the outline permission, as is a construction management plan to control the construction impacts. Full infiltration testing has also been undertaken since the objection mentioned previously to address the LLFA concerns. JCE has consulted with the local community and they've as a result, offered to build a horse walk, which is proposed within the scheme and will improve the safety not only for the users of the new sites, but also for the other training yards in the area to use as well to improve road safety for themselves. Importantly, the reserved matters proposal is almost identical to the indicative layout approved at outline, protecting key views, retaining the open wedge and enhancing the site with quality landscaping. All buildings are the same height or smaller, and the extent of floor area proposed is 14 to 18% less than that was approved at outline. The final layout is centred on functionality and welfare and includes amendments to address certain neighbours' concerns. It seeks to keep horses and vehicles separate for the safe operation of the yard. Stabling is provided in desirable and functional American barns. Isolation boxes provide biosecurity. Training facilities and muck bunkers are carefully located with operations and prevailing winds in mind. Sustainability features, including PV panels, EV chargers, cycle storage, high levels of insulation and air source heat pumps will be incorporated. Key training and storage facilities are provided, along with accommodation for all workers. The scheme does not include the hostel on Phase A or the trainer's house on Phase B, which were approved at outline stage, although space is provided for these to be built out in the future. Warwickshire Equine Business Guide calculations confirm that each yard can accommodate all its workers on site with the level of housing currently proposed. The intended materials are all sourced from the design code approved at outline stage, which are the same as those cited in the Parish Council's emerging design code for Lambourne. It must, therefore, be concluded that these materials are suitable to the site and its setting and will make a positive contribution to both. We therefore believe that the appearance and layout are acceptable. Finally, the government is clear that planning committees should be following the advice of their planning officers unless there are strong material planning reasons not to. With no technical objections and a scheme which is almost identical to that approved at outline, we believe there are no reasonable material planning reasons to refuse this application. We therefore ask the committee to recognise and support the 7 years of collaboration with the council and the parish that has gone into bringing these applications before you today. To recognise and support the public interest in delivering these flagship yards, which will help to define the future of the Valley of the Racehorse and the local rural economy. And to recognise and support the fact that, in accordance with your planning officer's recommendation, planning permission should be granted tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Firstly, can I apologise to you, Will? I mistook the spelling of your surname. Apologies about that. Right, members, questions to either the speakers. Right, okay, Councillor Colson first and then Councillor Foot.
Just a quick question for you, Will. I'm assuming that the gallops that you've already exist at Lambourne have got plenty of capacity for all of these extra horses and the training that they will be wanting to do on the gallops.
There is capacity for more horses, but I wouldn't necessarily view it as additional horses. I would view the purpose of the outline consent, as I said in the speech, as future proofing, and we can see it's very clear to us what's coming around the corner. Lambourne needs housing, and it needs racing housing as well to be delivered. We're seeing increasing conflict on the roads, and training in certain locations, we think in the next 5 to 10 year window is going to be increasingly difficult. So the purpose of this application is to maintain that critical mass of horse numbers that not only sustains what we do and enables us to maintain, upgrade and continue improving the facilities, but also underpins all the ancillary businesses and the economic cluster and all the jobs that are associated with that.
Councillor Foot.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair. I guess it's a question again for you, Will. Earlier on, Peter mentioned that there are 3 yards for sale in Upper Lambourn. Am I right? And forgive me, this isn't directly related to appearance and layout, which is what we're talking about, but just to inform the committee. Am I right in assuming that because this is, if you like, a state-of-the-art facility, that this will be attractive for trainers to utilise, and that perhaps, I mean, I don't know because I'm not, familiar with the industry, the yards that are for sale are maybe older and don't have the facilities that this one would have. Thanks.
Thank you. Yes, as CS12 and the emerging DM37 states, we need a variety of training yards of different sizes, and we've seen in recent planning applications in the last 18 months to 2 years that there are facilities that are under threat continually from applications seeking to remove legal obligations or seeking applications to uses that are away from horse racing. Yes, and that it relates to a bygone era, really, of Victorian yards, older yards that were often house heavy, so had very large homes attached to them. When a trainer, a big string of horses for a trainer might have been 30 or 40 horses. But now that it's increasingly difficult to train with that number of horses, and younger trainers wouldn't aspire to having those size houses. So these applications it's about not standing still. Every industry needs to move forward. And again, we can see what's coming around the corner, and this is about future-proofing it.
Thanks very much.
If I may just add to that, I think the other thing to remember is that with these modern yards, we have significantly improved facilities. So obviously there are older yards in the area that are functioning, but the way that you operate a yard now is quite different to how it was historically. We have different size machinery where it's difficult to operate in some of the smaller yards. We know much more now about ventilation and management. For biosecurity, it's a really important part of a yard coming forward now that perhaps wasn't so previously. So what these will do is really raise the standards in Upper Lambourn, and as I say, they're going to be flagship yards that will be really supporting the Valley of the Racehorse.
Any other further questions? Oh yeah, right. Okay, Councillor Gaines.
Ms Riddle, the jockey, I presume it's the jockey or the stable staff in the houses. How many are going to be actually in those semi-detached houses? Because I noticed there's three 3-bedroom and 1 4-bedroom.
Yes,
That's only 13 staff.
Yeah, so the calculations, that there's basically a business guide which provides detailed information. It's updated every few years, and it provides detailed information on all equine businesses. And the calculations have been using the information within that booklet. And it confirms that in order to operate the yard, the ratios needed, we need to have 8 members of staff on site for the large yard, and then we need to have 6 on site for the small yard. Therefore, you've got 2 3-bedroom units on the small yard. So there's your 6 bedrooms. And then you've got a 4-bedroom and a 3-bedroom, and then you've got a trainer's yard, or a trainer's house, sorry, on the larger site. So they're the 8 bedrooms. As I mentioned in my speech, in the outline application, we did include the hostel on the larger yard, and we also included a trainer's house on the smaller yard. They haven't been included within this application because the circumstances have changed slightly with COVID and the economic impact of things, and we didn't want to burden the purchasers of the yards as they stand at the moment. However, there is space for them to bring forward that accommodation if, for example, they have higher worker ratios and they need more staff on site, then they can deliver that accommodation on site. There is space on both of the layouts for that to continue to be delivered in the future if it's needed.
Thank you.
Okay, no further questions? Okay, Right, you can return to the back benches, and I'm now going to call upon the ward member.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll be nowhere near 10 minutes, so I don't need enough. The racehorse training industry is the most important in my ward of Lambourne by a country mile. To give you an idea of the statistics, it employs 30%, that's 30% of the people in my ward who are of employable age. It generates about £25 million to the local economy, which is way ahead of any other employment use in the area. Lambourne is recognised in government statistics as being an area of deprivation far below the average for West Berkshire. These applications are submitted by Jockey Club estates for 2 yards of different sizes, which have been designed to provide opportunities both to new traders coming to Lambourne and to those yards in the centre and east of Lambourne. Given increased traffic generation and the inevitable result of equine car and lorry conflict, this is, in my view, an accident waiting to happen, and the yards would be probably much better based in Upper Lambourne to the west, with relatively traffic-free access to the public gallops operated by Jockey Club estates. The owners of racehorses often live in London or in the home counties and are not bound to their trainers. They are more than happy to transfer to alternative trainers in Newmarket or other racing areas if they provide better gallops or facilities. Most owners just want to win. We need to protect our local racing industry, and these applications seek to provide opportunities to expand and develop the industry going forward. I'm not going to go into the detail of the schemes, which have been covered by the planning and other advisors who have already spoken. I'm purely concerned about the impact on the future of Lambourne as a centre of excellence for the racehorse training industry. I'm conscious, obviously, that I represent the entire population of my ward. I do take on board the concerns of nearby residents, and in particular the speed of traffic on the B4000. However, these applications relate to detailed design of the already consented scheme, and as such, these concerns are not relevant to these applications. That said, I'm working actively with both the Parish Council and District Council Highways team to see if we can reduce the current speed limit of 40 miles per hour down to 30, which I hope may allay some of the concerns of the nearby residents. I obviously have to take a balanced view on the applications before us, and I will clearly listen to the debate and take on board any views you put forward by committee members. But I would urge you to consider the economic benefits to the Lambourne Valley and the employment that this industry generates locally. Thank you, Chairman.
Right, thank you very much, Councillor Williston. Questions for a ward member? No. Oh yes, Councillor Foot.
Thank
Councillor
you.
Foot.
Sorry, Councillor Wilson. This isn't relating, I have to say, to appearance and layout. That's the first thing. But we've heard this evening about the great concerns, and I mean, gosh, you'll be well aware of the flooding and drainage issues that have been in the Upper Lambourne region. Can you just give the committee a brief, just a very brief outline of where we are now with that and the dealings with Thames Water, just for information, which I think would be very helpful. Thanks.
I'm chairman of the Lambourne Valley Flood Forum, so I'm very familiar with the issues. Thames Water over the last, certainly in the last year, have lined all of their sewers through Upper Lambourne down into Lambourne. And we've had some very heavy rain. The spring water, the groundwater is already rising, and to date we've had no problems. I'm keeping my fingers crossed, I'm touching wood, but it seems they might have solved the problem. But most of the water coming off this site is contained anyway. Certainly all the foul water is. So I don't think we've got a major problem here.
Okay, I did get reminded that you were straying a little bit, Councillor Foot, but bearing in mind that the issue is quite relevant in that area, I felt it was appropriate to allow you to continue on, and Councillor Williston has addressed it appropriately anyway.
Thanks very much, Chair.
Okay, you can return. Did you? No. Okay. Okay, I think we now need to return back standing orders. So can I have a proposal to return to standing orders? All those in favour? Show? Yep, okay. You now move into the section where questions for officers. And Councillor Anfarage, Councillor Abbs, and then Councillor Dick. I'm allowing you to go forward because I think Councillor Abbs was pointing at you to start with. So.
Yes. Thank you, Chairman. I just have one question on the updated report which was sent out for us. On all of these applications at the last item, proposed site landscape plan P25 received on the 17th February, that is after our site visit. So just to bring the context in terms of that revised or a site landscape plan, what is it exactly changed from our site visit?
As I pointed out on the site visit, that the only change was the muck heap has moved on site B to reflect the other plans that were updated. So on the block plan, the muck heap for phase B was on the opposite side of the car park, directly opposite where it was, and is now the opposite side for environmental health concerns. So it's just sort of flipped over and just pushed a barn along. This was discussed on site, if members remember, but just to clarify, it just matches the other plans that we've got.
Thank you, Chairman, and that explains it.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chairman. Just a couple of very quick ones. The members of the public, what I heard was a major concern about Thames Water's statements. Can we even reject based on, I've never heard us ever go against a statement from Thames Water. We may believe or disbelieve them, but we don't have to say that we don't believe them, do we?
No, so the original application would have has got conditions on relating to surface water drainage, and then this application, these current applications don't consider drainage, but we can come in for the further SUDS information. But for Thames Water, they have a duty to provide for new development. That is nothing that we can control.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It's not really something we can do anything about. And someone mentioned a condition about flood risk assessment there, but did I not hear that we have a flood risk assessment in place?
On the outline application, that was submitted. And like I said, further drainage information will be submitted as part of the
before they
conditions.
Yeah, okay. All right, thank you very much. That was it.
Councillor Dick first and then Councillor Gaines.
Being overtaken really, because we're supposed to be looking at appearance and layout, so I don't know why people consistently talk about other things. I was just going to simply ask the officer about the movement in the plans in response to some local concerns, and she's covered that in response to my colleague's question here. And it was discussed at the site visit. And incidentally, the site visit was hugely helpful in taking a view on the layout and appearance. Thank you.
Okay, right. Councillor Gaines.
I just have a query from Mrs. Inston, if it's okay. It says in there that the new homes bonus is not applicable. Why is that if we've got 4 new homes there?
I'm afraid I don't know. Oh, Councillor Gaines. I can't give you an answer for that. I'm not sure why I would need a housing.
It just says it just says no, and I wonder whether
I can find out for you.
Yeah, because I would have thought that, I appreciate that they're actually tied to the to the site,
Yeah.
but even so, they're still new homes.
They are still new homes.
Yeah.
I will need to find out for you.
Thank
I
you.
can try and find out before the vote, if you like.
There's no rush. I just wondered why it said no. That was all. Thank you. Thank you.
Councillor Wollaston. Sorry, and Councillor.
I suspect, this isn't a question or anything, but I suspect it's because they are tied, and as such, they're provided to on-site staff. As such, there's no new. Sorry. Yeah. Yes, they're effectively provided for staff working on site. They're not buying them.
No, don't need to be mine then. It should need to be.
Okay, I'll bow to your better knowledge.
Okay. I'll move on quickly to Councillor Colson.
Yeah, I just had a question on the road safety aspect and the point that Councillor Wollaston made about the speed limit on the road being 40 miles an hour at the moment, and wondered what opportunity we had to reduce that to 30 more quickly, so at least so that it's in place by the time any construction comes in.
Chairman, as I mentioned earlier, highways and access issues were considered at outline. But Councillor Wollaston and yourself raise a good point. It would seem that Councillor Wollaston is already working with colleagues from traffic management and road safety to aim to have the speed limit along there reduced. That would be subject to a very separate process to what we have here tonight. It would be subject to the speed limit review whenever that next takes place. And I'm sure that they will consider it if it's put before them at the time. But there's nothing else that I can sort of suggest tonight about it. There are other processes that local ward members and the parish council can engage with to aim to get that speed limit reduced.
Thank you. And can I just add?
Second question, yeah.
Well, just add to that I know that our MP for Newbury has met with the Jockey Club and the training community, and he too would be supportive of reducing the speed limit.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Abbs and then Councillor Dick.
Oh no, sorry. I thought we were moving on to debate, in which case I was going to start off. So don't.
No, not quite. And I should make a couple of comments when we start the debate anyway. Right, Councillor Dick.
I will buy to your comments, sir. I thought we were moving into debate.
No. Okay. There's no further questions. We're going to obviously have a general debate, but remember there's 4 aspects of this application, and we will be taking a vote on each of the aspects of that application, just to remind you. Okay. So we are now in debate, and Councillor Abbs was first, and then Councillor Dick.
Yeah, as Councillor Dick pointed out, we have very limited things to look at here. So do I like the idea of an American barn or not? That's the level of kind of decision making that's going on here. Well, to be honest, we've got plenty of them, and I have no feeling one way or another about it. As there are many in the area already, more doesn't change anything, and therefore why would I reject it on that basis? Yeah, my questions about Thames Water were related. Well, I didn't think we were allowed to think about that, and it was been confirmed we can't anyway. So within the small constraints of what we have, which is why I didn't think we needed 10 minutes, because this is a very limited, or for very limited range of things. So as soon as you'd like, there's no possible reason that we can come up with to reject this. So I'm happy to propose that we move on.
Chairman, thank you. So it is good that we discuss things, albeit peripheral things, so that residents, particularly those who have got complaints, find there's another way or a way of their complaints being examined, because that's important. But unusually, I need to agree with my colleague, two to my right. Layout and appearance, it is crystal clear in these reports, crystal clear on the site visit, and crystal clear in this debate that we can do no other than approve as writ. I'm very happy to second the motion if the proposal stands. And incidentally, I do know a little bit about horses, and American barns are better for horses and, if it matters, people. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments, Councillor Dick. Right, Councillor Amasraj first, then Councillor Foot.
Thank you, Chairman. Unlike Councillor Abb's point about the reasons to reject, I'm looking at reasons for us to support this application, and I think there are many from the speakers here. There's first and foremost, the site visit gave us a chance to assess the locality and then the area and how this impactors could be, and I don't see any impact in terms of major impact in the way this the layout is being proposed. Only question I had was on the landscaping one, which was addressed, and the other one was addressed in the site visit, that the tarmac and the permeable surface. So that's not a concern. So I will also support this application, as mentioned by the applicant, that it's a future-proof and it's well thought out, and it's important for the Lambourn racing industry and for our district. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, Councillor Foot.
Yes, thank you. Councillor Dix actually sort of said what I was going to say, in that it's quite clear, and I do understand that we're talking about appearance and layout here, but we have people in the room, and Mr. Francis laid out in his objection the concerns, the justified concerns that residents have in the Upper Lambourn with the flooding issues. And I'm very grateful to both you, Chair, for allowing me to go on to explain that, and also Councillor Wollaston, who is, after all, the Chair of the Lambourn Valley Flood Forum, and could give us the reassuring news that those drains have been lined, so there's no, hopefully, a reduced risk of infiltration leading to flooding. So, you know, and there are a lot of people that maybe might be watching this online, so I'm grateful to you for allowing that. But yeah, I would agree. I think we've got every reason to approve this application because it seems to be a really exciting development for the industry up there. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I did allow you to stray, but I've actually been thinking since Councillor Wollaston did actually mention about the road outside, and of course a lot of the flooding was also on the road network, so one could have actually argued that it was linked to it as well. You did make a comment about that road, so fair enough. Okay, Councillor Colston.
Thank you. Yes, according to the planning rules and everything, it's clear that we need to support this. And quite apart from that, I think, you know, we have a strategy about making supporting our villages to be vibrant villages. That means having employment and affordable housing for workers, which these schemes do provide. And as we've heard from the Jockey Club and from the ward member, the racing industry and the cluster we have in Lambourn is really important to us and our economy in West Berkshire. And it's important that we support our community with this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going now back to Councillor Abbs, because you were indicating you were proposing it. I don't think you formally proposed it.
I'd like to formally propose that we accept
and I think you, Councillor Dick, was prepared to second it. So.
I remain so.
Okay, so I'm just going to look for guidance from Sharon in relationship to how we're going to take the vote.
Are you proposing it for all four, the applications?
Yes.
Okay. So, and you're seconding for all four? Yeah. Okay. So it's probably, might be worth maybe Mrs. Inson reading out the application and just, you know, rural workers, larger site, and then we take the vote on that. So everyone's very clear which one they're voting on. I don't know if that's the easiest way of doing things.
Otherwise, I just mentioned application. It's not quite so clear.
So my only comment would be the conditions associated with flood risk, because that was the thing I heard from the residents. So, and I've been assured there are conditions in there and actions that we take, so we're covered as far as I can tell.
I will just make it clear that the site is now in the nutrient neutrality zone, so we will request more than we would have previously.
Yeah, it was in the documents, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, are you going to now identify which one we vote accordingly, I think.
Thank you, Chair. So the first application is 23/02941/ResMaj. And that is for the smaller site, Phase B, for the rural workers units only. So do you want to take the vote on that, Sharon?
Should we take the vote on that one? Okay. All in favour, please show. Okay, that is unanimous. Moving on to the second one.
Moving on to the second one, thank you, Chair. It's 23/02942/ResMaj, and that's the larger site, Phase A, the rural worker units only.
Okay, all those in favour? Show. Unanimous. Moving on to the
Moving on.
third application. Third.
23//02944 Res Maj, and that's the larger site, Phase 8, the equestrian works only.
All those in favour, please show. Again, unanimous.
And then the final one is 23//02945 Res Maj, and that's the smaller site, Phase B, equestrian works only.
All those in favour, please show. Again, unanimous. Thank you very much, members. Okay, any other comments on that we need to make at all? Any observations? Okay. You've closed. Okay.
It's now closed.
So I formally close the meeting of the 19th